So let's look at electrocardiogram right now. So we saw all the 12 leads, 3 bipolar leads, 3 unipolar leads and 6 chest leads. So now we can find out how this beautiful PQRS was formed. How this was, we can trace the events right now. So basically when we start electrocardiogram, just we need to revise certain facts so we can be clear in electrocardiogram. So actually when we get the ECG paper that we usually used to see in our practice, the first thing is that the ECG, the speed of ECG paper that we get is 25 millimeter per second, that we guys need to know. And there is two axis, x-axis and y-axis. X-axis denotes time and y-axis denotes voltage. Okay, fine. Now we get this some irritating boxes, really. So minute boxes that keeps on irritating our mind. So let's make it easy. Let's take one large boxes with 5 small boxes, one large box with 5 small boxes. So usually that one small box, the value of one small box is 0.04 second. But the decimal point is little bit irritating for us always. So let's take it as a whole number, 40 millisecond. So either 0.04 second, it's up to your wish. But one small box is 40 milliseconds. Very easy to understand things in simple way. So 40 milliseconds. So millisecond is a good term, good unit actually. So 40 millisecond is one small box, and entire box will be about 0.2 second. Yes, or you can take it as 200 millisecond also. So okay, now we have seen the leads, we have seen how the impulse travels. Now we are going to see what we are going to record, how the waves are going to get formed. So before we get into these stuffs, you guys need to understand 3 important things. Never forget these 3 important things. These 3 important things will actually help you to figure out the ECG, to make you understand how the normal ECG will look and how a pathological ECG will look, abnormal ECG will look. Okay, so what 3 important things? The first thing is that the normal electrical axis of the heart. So normally I am standing here right now. How the electrical axis of the heart is that it's from right shoulder to left foot. So on this direction, I'll draw it like this. Yes. So on this direction, from right shoulder to left foot is the direction of the electrical axis of the heart. Okay, then fine. So what is the second thing? The second thing is that you see, when you see this diagram, any ECG you take, there is only 2 ways that you can see. One, the wave moving up, and one, the wave moving down. And you see sometimes both also, both on the same sheet also. So how the wave moves up is that, how a positive deflection happens in an ECG paper is that, when a current flows along the direction of the electrical axis of the heart, we get a positive deflection. So we get a positive deflection. So the positive deflection will be either like this, or like this also. So these 2 variants we can find. A positive deflection will be of these 2 variants, either wholly or some partial negative also. So that's when this pattern happens, when a current flows from along the axis of the heart. So when a current flows opposite to the axis of the heart, the direction of the axis of the heart, we get a negative deflection. So negative wave will be like this, either like this or like this. So this pattern happens when a current flows opposite to the electrical axis of the heart. But there is another condition also, that is when the current flows perpendicular to the axis of the heart, like this. When a current flows perpendicular to the axis of the heart, we get this wave pattern. So both of same amplitude, a positive and a negative of same amplitude. So this type of wave is called as a biphasic wave. So a biphasic wave happens when a current flows perpendicular to the axis of the heart. So just a quick rewind. The normal electrical axis of the heart is from right shoulder to left foot. Okay, fine. How a positive deflection happens? When a current flows along the axis of the heart. So how a negative deflection happens? When a current flows opposite. So how the biphasic wave happens is that when a current flows perpendicular to the axis of the heart. So I'm just saying things, but when we apply these things on the ECG, you can understand things right now. So you see, so let's redraw our first diagram that we saw. The impulse starts from SA node, then it travels along 3 bundles as I said to AV node. So you see the current, it's flowing along the axis of the heart. When the current flows along the axis of the heart, you get a positive deflection. So that's why we get a positive P wave. So positive P wave means that SA node will be a pacemaker and it's a sinus rhythm. So that's why we get a positive deflection. So it's very easy when you apply things. So now the impulse is on the AV node. Again, we already know that AV node has a least number of gap junctions and it has a delay of 0.06 second to 0.17 seconds, AV nodal delay. You see the impulse moves from AV node to the left bundle, then it moves to the right bundle. So this pattern we are going to track. Now this delay of 0.06 second to 0.17 second is what we get an isoelectric line here. So a positive P wave due to the current going along the axis of the heart to AV node, isoelectric line due to AV nodal delay or AV nodal conduction that is happening on the interventricular septum. And this negative wave, how this negative Q wave happens is that you see this wave, this current goes from left side of the bundle to right side of the bundle. It's happening on the septal point, right? So you see it's perpendicular to the electrical axis of the heart. So as I said, when it goes perpendicular, you get a biphasic wave. Now you can raise me a question right now. You said that when it moves perpendicular to the electrical axis of the heart, you said that you get a biphasic wave, but I can't see a biphasic wave there. Okay, I have an answer for you guys. So what has happened is that during the atrial depolarization, you see from the SA node, it goes to AV node, atria depolarizes. So what happens when atria depolarizes? Atria contracts. So when atria contracts, atria needs to go back to its own position. Atria repolarizes also. So atria repolarization happens when this impulse moves from left side of the bundle to right side of the bundle. So atria repolarization happens when this impulse, when this current goes from left side of the bundle to the right side of the bundle. So this is the reason why this positive deflection is cancelled. This positive deflection is cancelled. That's why we get a negative alarm. Usually a Q wave is of a biphasic wave, but we can't get a positive, we can't see in ECG paper a positive deflection because during that time atrial repolarization happens. During that repolarization, a positive wave is cancelled. It cancels each other. So we can't see a positive wave. And since the current is so small, so negligible by passing from left side of the bundle to right side of the bundle, the negative wave is not of much amplitude. You get a very small negative wave. Sometimes it might be absent also. So you get a very small negative wave, negative Q wave. You see negative Q wave. Now the impulse travels along the bundle of his. Yes, along the bundle of his and to the Purkinje cells, to the ventricular cells, to the myocytes, ventricular cardiomyocytes. So what has happened is that this current now is going along the axis of the heart. So it goes along the axis of the heart. Now we see a big R wave. So why we get a huge R wave is that it's due to sheer number of ventricular cells, ventricular myocytes, because everything depends on the amplitude of R wave, its conduction velocity, its gap junctions. So the amount of Purkinje cells the ventricle has, everything gives a big amplitude of R wave, a big positive deflection. Now, what has happened is that you got a R wave, right, a positive deflection. So now the impulse is traveling along, it spreads along the ventricular cells to the last myocyte of the ventricle. So the last myocyte of the ventricle depolarizes. That time the current is just opposite. It's just opposite to the electrical axis of the heart. So you get a small, negligible, it's very small, it's very negligible. Sometimes you can't find the S wave also. So but you get a negative, S wave is always a negative wave. So you get negative S wave due to the depolarization of the last cardiomyocyte. And you get a pause, the ST segment, you get an isoelectric line. So this isoelectric line that you see, the ST segment, it's a lag between excitation and contraction. This is where ventricles actually contract. That's lag. It denotes that it's a lag between excitation and contraction. There is some pause. Yes. Now this T wave, positive T wave, it represents ventricular repolarization. So now for after the S wave, after the small, so after the depolarization of the last myocyte, what happens next? Ventricles contract, right? Yes. So during ventricular contraction, there is a small lag between this excitation and contraction. So actually this in this ST segment where the contraction happens, this ST segment is where contraction happens, and that's why there's no impulse or no current that is traveling when this contraction is going to happen. So once after the current is hit, you get, it's like when you touch a socket, you get hit by a current, then you do an action, that's an action, right, that is created. It's the same way when the impulse is traveling and when it hits the myocyte, after it has finished hitting the myocyte, then the ventricles contract and there's no role for current to play at that time. So that's the isoelectric line of the ST segment. And T wave denotes ventricular repolarization. So normally in this ST segment, you see ventricles contract, and when I talk about ST segment, you guys would have remembered about myocardial infarction. So I said that ventricles contract and there is no role of current to play. So if there is some changes in ST segment, that means that there is some abnormalities in contraction and there is some abnormal current that is flowing on. So when you apply this current and contraction in a simultaneous manner in the ECG, you get things very, very easy. So let's come to a final conclusion about this all PQRS waves that we have seen right now, that we have studied right now. So let's look at the normal duration of these waves. So basically a cardiac cycle will be around 0.8 second, so or 800 millisecond. Let's study in millisecond figures to make it very, very simple. So a cardiac cycle will be 0.8 second or 800 millisecond. 800 millisecond. Fine. So in this 800 millisecond, we see that the impulse that is finishing on ventricles will be on 0.22 or let's take 300 milliseconds. So the current finishes by 300 millisecond. So between this 300 millisecond, all these things should happen. So that's where we see a person is normal. That's how a heart is functioning. So let's start from P wave. P wave denotes atrial depolarization, and this duration, the duration of this P wave should be less than 120 millisecond, or to be precise, I can say 0.1 second, or to be more precise, I can say that's just only two small boxes. So one small box is 40 milliseconds. Don't forget this point. One small box is 40 millisecond. So P wave's duration is less than 120 millisecond, means it's less than 3 small boxes. That's all. And we see PR interval, that is AV nodal conduction. This AV nodal conduction, the interval of this PR should be between 120 to 200 millisecond. I am just saying the normal values. So in another video, I will say that what happens when these changes take place, when it's high or low, what is the cause, what is the disease, etc. So when we come to Q wave right now, it's septal activation. By the way, Q wave is a negative wave, septal activation. Always when you study about Q wave, just remember this diagram. It's only one small box. So one small box denotes 40 milliseconds. This should be less than 40 milliseconds. The Q wave should be consumed in this one small box. That's that. And the QRS interval is, QRS wave is ventricular depolarization, and the duration of QRS wave is 80 to 100 milliseconds. So basically it's between two small boxes. And the T wave is ventricular repolarization, and there's some small thing about T waves there. The amplitude of T wave should be less than 5 millimeter in the limb leads. Limb leads means the main leads, the bipolar leads, and should be less than 10 millimeter in the chest leads. So that's a normal value. So if it goes high, it's tall tented T waves, or you see some inversion of T wave, etc., that we can see later. And ST segment is an isoelectric segment, isoelectric line. There is no wave, there's no deflection in ST segment. If there is some deflection, we call it as ST elevation. We will see in MI also, and there is an ST depression also. So lots of things are there, but the normal thing is that ST wave is an isoelectric line. So I'll repeat once again, ST is an isoelectric line. This is where the ventricular contraction happens. There is no role of current to play. Please remember, in P wave there is atrial depolarization, and in ST segment it is an isoelectric line, and QR is for ventricular depolarization. And what is the QT segment is that, you see from Q to T, there is QRS, that is ventricular depolarization, and there is ST, ventricular T wave also, ventricular repolarization. Actually, QT interval is nothing but the starting of Q wave till the end of T wave. So it's basically ventricular depolarization plus ventricular repolarization. So duration of QT segment is 360 to 400 millisecond. So this is the normal format. This is normal PQRS intervals. You guys need to remember these values. These values are so very important. If you look at this ECG, if you see any of the changes, you can easily denote what disease is it, or what changes has happened, which wave was affected, which segment was affected. You can easily find out. You see just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6 small definitions that will really crack your ECG well. So the last thing is that I want to share with you guys is that how to find the electrical axis of the heart. We were saying about the electrical axis, the normal electrical axis, but there is a simple way to find the electrical axis of the heart. So the last part of video that I want to share is very important, and this will help you guys when you see an ECG, is that electrical axis. I was from the beginning I was saying about the normal electrical axis. So the normal electrical axis is from right shoulder to left foot. So but how we can see in an ECG paper? But actually how we can see is that you can see lead 1, the bipolar lead, the lead 1 and the AVF. Actually lead 1, it starts from right shoulder. So right shoulder and left foot. So foot is for AVF and right shoulder is for lead 1. So when you get an ECG paper, just see lead 1. You see a positive deflection. And if you see a same positive deflection on the AVF, it means that you are at the normal axis. The heart is at normal axis. This is the normal. The heart is at normal axis. But what if you see a downward deflection of wave in an AVF, but a normal upward deflection in lead 1? So this is the left axis deviation. So the left axis deviation is when there's an upward deflection in lead 1 and a downward deflection in AVF. So the same opposite, if you see a downward deflection in lead 1 and an upward deflection in AVF, it's a right axis deviation. So you cracked it out. So the extreme axis goes by, when you see both downward deflection in lead 1 and AVF, it goes by extreme axis deviation. So what is this deflection? So you see that I can see deflection of P wave, I can get R wave is also positive, yes, T wave is also positive. What deflection are you talking about is that I am talking about QRS. You are going to look at the QRS interval, mainly the R wave amplitude. So simple to say, just when you get an ECG paper, look at the R wave and you see both upward deflection of the R wave in lead 1 and AVF, you are on normal axis. So this diagram will help you out. This is called as the quadrant method. So this will determine the electrical axis of the heart. And for heart rate, I think you guys would have known 60 by RR interval into 0.04. But if you are in a hurry, that in an examination you are in a hurry, you need to find heart rate very fast, you are not so well in mathematics, and that's so I'll give a very easy formula for you guys to determine heart rate. So heart rate, you can this is just for a rough use, 300 divided by number of large squares. So the number of large squares, between one R interval to another R interval. For example, I have 4 or I have 3 large squares between my one R interval and another R interval. That means that 300 divided by 3, so the heart rate of the person is 100. So it's very easy. You just don't want to count all the small boxes, then you put the denominator, then you multiply it by 0.04, then you find an answer. It's very easy if you put 300 divided by number of large squares. So this will help you guys out. So revise the leads. Just a recap for you guys: 12 lead ECG, 3 bipolar leads I taught you, 3 unipolar augmented leads, augmentation looking through a window in a 3D image of the heart. And then we saw chest leads. We saw all the points where the chest leads is located. Memorize those points, is very important. Then we saw about the impulse traveling. Then we saw about all the PQRS wave, what is the upward deflection, the downward deflection, etc. And the electrical axis of the heart, the beautiful electrical axis of the heart, how you can determine with the help of just 2 leads. One is lead 1 and one is AVF. So that's a small basics of ECG. Because I haven't given much time for this basics, because more than basics, we need to learn from pathology part. There is big videos that is going to come on. There's going to be AV block paroxysmal supraventricular tachycardia, involved ventricular arrhythmias we are going to cover out. So basics, be thorough with your basics, study again and again so that you can revise all, you can memorize all these facts. So thank you guys, thank you for watching this video. Please take notes and revise again and again. So thank you guys, thanks for watching.